Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about the elements of a paragraph. That's just a fancy way of saying we're talking about how you should organize a formal and a professional paragraph. We'll also be talking a little bit about MLA as well. To begin, I like to use the Hamburger paragraph format. That way I can think about the different elements or ingredients that I need to include anytime I write a paragraph. So this slide just gives you a quick graphic to just kind of show you or introduce to you the different elements that you should include. On the next slide, we'll talk about each one of these elements more specifically. So as you know, we need to include some sort of thesis statement or topic sentence. After we provided a thesis statement, then we can move into our 3 leadoffs. Each leadoff should also have follow-up sentences. And lastly, we need to include some sort of conclusion. Let's talk about these more specifically. So like I said, you need to include some sort of thesis statement. A thesis statement is simply like a roadmap of your paragraph. This is going to let your reader know exactly what you're going to be talking about, and it's also going to list your subpoints that you'll explain as well. After you provide your thesis statement, you're going to give your 3 leadoffs. As you can see from the slides here, you'll have your leadoff 1, 2, and 3. Each leadoff is also going to have supporting sentences, and your supporting sentences are simply going to provide extra explanations, details, or examples that prove your leadoffs. After you explain your 3 leadoffs, you need to have some sort of conclusion, and your conclusion is going to be introduced by a concluding transition, and then it's going to summarize your paragraph by restating your thesis statement. If you were to follow this format for a formal paragraph, you will end up having a paragraph that is 11 sentences long. Your thesis statement should only be 1 sentence. Your leadoffs and supporting sentences should each have 3 sentences total. And then you'll have 1 concluding sentence as well, which would give you a grand total of 11 sentences. Next, I want to talk more specifically about your thesis statement. I like to explain to my students that a thesis statement is 1 sentence that has 2 parts. As you can see from this slide here, I have highlighted each part in my example so that you can kind of see how they correlate. So to explain, part 1 of your thesis statement is simply going to state the topic, or it's going to restate the prompt that you're responding to. In part 2, your thesis statement should also list your main ideas that you'll be explaining in your paragraph. So what I mean by that is you can see it listed in the example. The example says, "My favorite season is fall because it brings a change of colors, the weather is enjoyable, and there are plenty of seasonal treats to enjoy." As you can see from my thesis statement, it's 1 sentence that has 2 parts. In part 1, I explained what my sentence or my paragraph is going to be about. It's going to be about my favorite season. In part 2, I list my main ideas, the 3 reasons why fall is my favorite. Now, again, I want to explain to you that a thesis statement is like your roadmap. Your thesis statement lets us know what you're going to be talking about. It then leads into your leadoff sentences, and your leadoffs introduce your main ideas, which then in turn informs your supporting sentences. Your supporting sentences will provide extra explanations. Now on this next slide, I attempted to give you an example, and just a warning, it looks maybe a little bit crazy. And so I want to explain this in the best way possible. If this confuses you at all, feel free to reach out and I can try to re-explain it in a different way. So for this slide, I'm still working with the same example thesis statement that I showed you on the last few slides. Again, that thesis statement says this: "My favorite season is fall because it brings a change of colors, the weather is enjoyable, and there are plenty of seasonal treats to enjoy." For this slide, I changed my color coding just a little bit to show you that it correlates with each leadoff. So this dark blue color is my leadoff 1, this yellow color is my leadoff 2, and the light blue is lead off 3. So as you can see, when I begin writing my lead-offs, I provide a transition, and then I reintroduce that main idea. After I've introduced the main idea, I need to include supporting sentences that correlate with the lead-off. So to explain, my lead-off says, "First, fall is my favorite season because it brings a change of colors." In my supporting sentences, I have to explain what that means. So as an example, it says, "The fall leaves change to vibrant colors of red, orange, and yellow. These colors encourage me to get outside to take a walk through nature." For my lead-off 2, it says, "Second, fall is my favorite season because the weather is enjoyable." Again, I have to have supporting sentences that explain what I mean by that. It says, "The fall grants us with days that are not too hot and not too cold. This makes it easy for me." Okay, sorry about that. I had a knock on the door. I'm going to start right back here with lead-off number 2. So again, my lead-off number 2 says, "Second, fall is my favorite season because the weather is enjoyable." After my lead-off, I have to provide my supporting sentences to explain what I mean by that. So my supporting sentence 1 says, "The fall grants us with days that are not too hot and not too cold." Number 2, "This makes it easy to still spend time outdoors while still being comfortable." And then finally, my third lead-off says, "Third, fall is my favorite season because there are plenty of seasonal treats to enjoy." Again, I need to explain what I mean by that by including 2 supporting sentences. My supporting sentences say, "When the weather eventually cools down, I like to stay inside to bake. Some of my favorite treats to make are apple pies, pumpkin bars, and candy corn cheesecake." So again, my lead-offs just list my main ideas, and my supporting sentences provide extra details to explain what I mean. On this next slide, I discussed with you some transitions. So transitions simply help bridge ideas together in a paragraph or essay. So it lets us know that we're talking about one idea, and then we'll transition to the next before we transition to one more idea. On these next few slides, I've simply given you different types of transitions. I'm not going to list each one of them for you because you can read them in your own time, but just know that we have time transitions, first, second, third. We have addition transitions as well, besides, in addition. We have argumentative transitions, best of all, especially, in fact, and so on. We also have cause and effect transitions, for instance, as a result, because, consequently. We have contrast transitions, but, despite, however. There are illustration transitions, finally, for example, for instance. And we also have space transitions, across, below, behind. And lastly, we have summary transitions, accordingly, in conclusion, in other words. And so essentially, as you write your paper, you'll need to find the transitions that best fit the sentences you're writing. I also want to point out to you that some transitions also include a comma, so just be aware of that as you use and include transitions in your sentences. And then on this last slide, I just want to cover MLA format. So in this class, when we write paragraphs and essays, we'll be following MLA. So this means that when you type, you need to include these elements. So first, you need to include a header. A header should look like this. That means it's going to be in the upper left-hand side. It should include your name, your teacher's name, the class name, and the date. Keep in mind that this information is all double-spaced. Then you should also include a title. Your title should be centered, it should not be bold, and it should not be underlined. It should be in the same font, and it should be in the same font size as the rest of your essay. And then for your body, it should be double-spaced, it should be indented, and it should be left-aligned. For the entire essay, it should be left-aligned, double-spaced, it should be in Times New Roman font, and it should be font size 12. So these are just things that you should remember as you type your essays. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered today in this video, don't hesitate to reach out. Bye everyone!